The twin suns of planet Karn burned high in the sky. Their heat made the sand shimmer like water, but there was no water here. Only dust, heat, and silence. People lived underground. They were scared to come out during the day. The heat could melt skin, and worse than the sun were the warlords. Alien warlords had ruled Karn for 50 years. Tall, armored, and heartless. They controlled the land with machines, fear, and fire. Their soldiers patrolled the cities. Anyone who disobeyed the rules was taken away. No one ever returned. Among the people was a young human named Jace Thorn. He wasn't a warrior or a rebel. He was just a mechanic. He repaired mining crawlers, water pumps, and small bots. He was smart with tools and good with machines, but not the kind of person who changed the world, at least. Not until he heard the story. It came from an old miner who worked near the Red Dunes. The man had dust in his beard and oil on his hands. "They sleep out there," the old miner whispered one evening, "in the sands. Big as mountains. Metal beasts. Dragons. Not built by the warlords. Built before them." Jace raised an eyebrow. "Machines. War machines." The man said, "Wings, like ships. Eyes like burning coals. They fought for the free people once, but the warlords buried them deep." Most people thought it was just a tale, a desert legend. But Jace didn't forget. Something inside him said it was real. For weeks, he planned. He studied the maps, watched the patrols, fixed up a broken crawler, and waited for the right night. Then, when the moons were low and the sky was dark, he drove out toward the Forbidden Zone. Everyone knew about the Forbidden Zone. It was an area marked by sharp red signs and tall steel poles that hummed with warning signals. The warlords had blocked it off decades ago. Now no one was allowed in. No one dared. But Jace dared. His crawler moved slowly across the dunes. The sand hissed beneath its tracks. Around him, the desert stretched endlessly. No light, no sound. Just 1,000 miles of silence. After hours of driving, Jace saw something strange. A shape in the sand. He stopped the crawler and stepped out. The wind was hot and dry. The stars above were cold and silent. There, half buried in the sand, was something metallic. He knelt beside it, brushed away some of the sand. His fingers touched black steel, smooth and curved. It was not a rock, not a normal machine. It was a claw, huge, sharp, and ancient. Jace's heart beat faster. He kept digging. Sand poured through his hands as he uncovered more: a long arm, part of a wing, and the top of a massive head. It had horns made of dark metal and a jaw filled with steel teeth. A dragon? He breathed. It was real, not a myth, not a story. A real war machine. He ran back to his crawler, grabbed a scanner, and pointed it at the dragon. Life signal detected. System in low-power sleep mode. His eyes widened. It's alive. Not alive like a human, but alive like a machine. A thinking machine, an AI, maybe even a soul inside circuits. As he stood in the sand, shocked, something beeped on his radio. Then a cold robotic voice crackled through. Movement detected in Sector 7. Dispatching patrol. Jace froze. They had noticed him. The warlords were watching the zone with sky drones. Now they were sending someone. He had maybe 20 minutes. Maybe less. He had to choose: run and hide, or stay and dig. He looked at the dragon again. The shape was so powerful, so ancient. He felt something in his chest, not fear, but fire. This machine had been built for battle, for justice. Maybe it could fight again. Maybe it could help free Karn. He dropped to his knees, opened his toolkit, and found a rusted panel on the dragon's chest. With careful hands, he removed bolts, wiped sand from the surface, and opened it. Inside were glowing blue circuits. Old tech, but still alive. He connected his scanner and tried a power transfer. For a few seconds, nothing happened. Then the dragon's eye flickered. A soft red glow. Just for a moment, Jace's breath caught. "You're waking up, aren't you?" Behind him, far away on the horizon, a red light blinked. A patrol ship, small, fast, deadly. He was running out of time. The dragon's chest gave a low hum, like a breath, like it remembered how to live. "I don't know if you can hear me," Jace whispered, "but I need you." "We all do." Another pulse from the dragon. The sand shifted. The wing moved just a little. Jace looked behind again. 2 lights now. Getting closer. He grabbed a cable and connected it to the crawler's core. "Take my power. Take everything." The wind picked up. Sand whipped around him. He didn't move. The dragon opened one eye. It glowed, deep, red, alive. Then it spoke. Ah, deep metallic voice echoed in Jace's mind. "Human, you are not afraid." Jace smiled. "No, and you shouldn't be either." Far off, the warlord patrols flew toward him, fast and angry. But Jace didn't run. He stood by the dragon. Because he knew this was just the beginning. The sky turned a deep red as the twin sons of Karn began to fall. Wind howled across the dunes. Sand moved like waves in an invisible ocean. JC stood beside the ancient war machine. The desert dragon, its eye glowing faintly. The dragon's voice still echoed in his mind. "Human, you are not afraid." He didn't know how the machine spoke directly to him. There were no speakers. No mouth. But the words had entered his head like a memory. The dragon was alive, not like a man, okay? But alive in its own way, with thought, memory, and something close to a soul. But now, danger was coming. 2 red lights in the sky. Getting closer. Warlord. Patrol ships.jac didn't have much time. He connected more power cables from his crawler into the dragon's chest. The crawler's battery dropped fast. The engine coughed. Lights dimmed. "Come on," he whispered. "Wake up. You've got to wake up." The dragon's wings moved slightly. Its neck twitched. Its metal body gave off a low hum like the sound of a sleeping giant turning in bed. Then came the sound Jace feared most. A loud boom from above. A patrol ship broke through the clouds, flying low and fast. A spotlight turned on. It scanned the desert. A robotic voice echoed through a speaker. "Unknown subject identified. Step away. This zone is restricted." Jace didn't move. He raised his hands slowly, but didn't leave the dragon. The second ship circled overhead, lowering. A group of black-armored soldiers. 3 of them marched forward, tall, sharp, and silent. Their armor reflected red light. Their faces were hidden behind black helmets with no eyes. One of them pointed a weapon at Jace's chest. "You are under arrest for breaching warlord territory." Jace spoke calmly. "You don't understand what this is." One soldier tilted his head, then stepped forward and aimed a scanner at the dragon. The scanner beeped rapidly. Type: War Machine. Model: Class Titan. Origin: Pre-Warlord Era. Status: Semi-active. The soldiers stepped back. One turned to the ship and spoke in an alien tongue. Jace didn't know the words, but he understood their meaning. They were afraid. The dragon moved again. Sand slid off its back as its giant body shook. One claw dug into the ground. Its head turned slightly. "It's glowing." I locked onto the soldiers. "Enemies detected," said the same deep voice inside Jace's head. Before the soldiers could react, the dragon moved. Faster than anyone thought possible, the beast's tail swung wide, smashing 2 of the soldiers into the air like broken toys. The third soldier fired his weapon. sending a stream of red plasma into the dragon's chest. But it did nothing. The dragon stood fully now. Its wings opened slightly, wide and long, casting a shadow over Jace. The patrol ships above fired warning shots, bright beams of heat and energy. The dragon roared. Not a sound of a normal beast, but a deep mechanical blast that shook the sand and cracked nearby rocks. The air became hot with energy. Then the dragon did something incredible. It opened its mouth, and a plasma fire burst out, striking the nearest patrol ship mid-air. The ship exploded in a ball of light, sending wreckage into the sand. Jace fell back, shielding his face. The second ship flew higher, escaping the fire, but the dragon didn't chase it. Instead, Machine turned to Jace and spoke again, not in words, but in feeling. "You freed me. I will not forget." Jace stood slowly, brushing sand from his face. His heart raced. His crawler was destroyed. He had no water left. And now, every warlord on the planet knew where he was. But something had changed. The Forbidden Zone was no longer silent. The desert had awakened. JC looked up at the machine. "What's your name?" he asked quietly. The dragon paused for a moment. "Designation D-47, it said. "But long ago, I was called Ashrak Flamewing." Jace nodded. "Ashrak, we need more like you." The dragon lowered its head slightly, as if thinking. "There are others, sleeping, scattered, lost beneath the sands." Jace's eyes lit up. "Can you find them?" "Yes, but it will draw attention. The warlords will send more." "I know," Jace said, "but maybe that's what we need." He looked out at the stars above. Somewhere, people were still hiding, still afraid, still hoping for freedom. Maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something bigger. Back at Warlord Command, high above Karn, inside a massive space fortress, a warlord sat in a dark throne. A screen showed a video feed from the destroyed patrol ship. The image of the awakened dragon fire bursting from its mouth froze on the display. The warlord's eyes narrowed. "One of the titans has awakened," he said in a cold voice. A commander beside him nodded. "A human woke it." The warlord's face twisted with rage. "Send the trackers. Send the hunters. I want that human's head." And the dragon melted to scrap. The desert wind was quiet again. The battle was over. But the danger had just begun. Jace sat in the sand beside the giant war machine. Ashrock, the desert dragon. Pieces of the destroyed patrol ship still burned nearby. The smell of metal and smoke filled the air. The dragon's glowing red eye looked down at him. "They will come," Ashrock said. Jace wiped sweat from his face. His hands were dirty, scraped, and shaking from the adrenaline. But he nodded. Double quotes, yes. They saw everything. They'll send more. Ashrock moved slowly. His giant claws dug into the ground and his neck turned toward the west, where the dunes stretched far beyond the eye could see. "I can feel them," Ashrock said. "The others. Sleeping, broken, waiting." Jace's eyes widened. "How many are there?" The dragon paused. 7 more, scattered, hidden in the sand. Jace stood up. "Then we find them." Ashrock's voice rumbled deep inside his mind. "You will not survive alone. They will hunt you." "I wasn't planning to survive," Jace said, with a weak smile. "I was planning to free this planet." Far away, in a dark room inside, a black stone fortress buried deep in the mountains, the warlords gathered. 6 of them, tall, armored, cold. One warlord placed a clawed hand on the table. "We confirmed it. A Titan-class war machine has reactivated." Another hissed, "Impossible. Those machines were erased in the last purge." The leader called Overseer. Goth stood slowly. His armor was dark purple, and his voice sounded like thunder in a cave. This is no longer rumor. The video is clear. A screen showed Ashrock breathing fire, destroying the patrol ship. A human revived it. The others fell silent. Goth turned to his captain. Send the Black Hunters. No survivors. Burn the sands if you must. Back in the desert Ashrock and Jace moved across the dunes. Jace rode on the dragon's back, his eyes scanning the horizon. The ride was bumpy, but Ashrock's movements were smooth for such a large machine. Jace had connected his scanner directly to the dragon's mind core. The two were now linked, not fully, but enough for Ashrock to share signals, directions, and memories, and then something strange happened. As they crossed a deep valley of sand, Jace began to hear voices not from the radio, not from Ash, Raak, but inside the scanner. ... We were betrayed. The sun never rises, waiting for command. The voices were broken, static-filled, but real. Jace blinked. Ashrak, what is this? You are hearing echoes, Ashrak said. Old signals, memories left behind by my kind. From the other dragons. Yes, when we fell. We sent out calls, help signals. Some never reached anyone. But they remain hidden in the sand, bouncing between metal and sky. Jace stared at the screen. The words repeated again. This time, clearer. Unit R17. Status, buried. 3%. Location, Black Ridge Canyon. There's one, Jace pointed. We can go there. It is risky, Ashrak warned. The warlords will be watching. Jace nodded. Let them watch. At night, in the canyon, Black Ridge Canyon was full of sharp rocks and strange metal bones, leftovers from an old war. Jace walked carefully under the moonlight, holding a dim lantern and his scanner. Ashrak stayed hidden in the upper ridge, watching from above. The signal was stronger now. The voice repeated clearly. Unit R17, requesting repair. Requesting. Light Jace followed the sound until he reached a pile of rocks. Underneath, he saw it. A tail, long curved, silver dot. Another dragon, smaller than Ashrock, but still powerful looking. This one was missing a wing. Its chest was broken open. Wires. Torn metal blackened by plasma burns. Jace climbed on top and opened a panel. Lights blinked inside, weak, flickering. I found you? Tay, he whispered. He connected the scanner and rerouted power from his backup cells. The dragon's eye lit up a dull green glow. Then came a voice. This one was different. Younger, broken, but soft. ... I was alone. So long. Jace blinked. You're awake, not fully, but I hear you. Jace smiled. I'm Jace, a mechanic. I'm here to fix you. ... Then I will fight. From above, Ashrak spoke into Jace's mind. You've done well, human. This one is called Renoth. She was swift in battle once. Jace looked at Renoth, resting in the sand like a sleeping child. Then let's bring her back. But they were not alone. From behind the canyon walls, dark shadows moved. 3 figures, not warlord soldiers, something worse. Black hunters. They had no armor, just black skin that looked like stone. Their eyes glowed white, silent, fast. Deadly. One of them pulled out a curved blade and tapped a device on its arm. A signal went out. The night wind howled through Black Ridge Canyon. JC crouched beside the broken body of the dragon, called Renoth. Her silver frame was dented and cracked. Sparks flickered from wires inside her chest, but her green eye glowed dimly, and she was alive. Above, on a rocky ledge, Ashrock stood watch, silent and still. They are coming, Ashrock spoke into Jace's mind. Jace froze. The warlords? No worse. The Black Hunters. Jace quickly grabbed his tools. Then we need to wake her up. Now, he connected 3 power cables from his backup cells to Rhina's core. The circuits lit up inside her chest. Her tail twitched. Power returning. Rhinath whispered, "Pain? Systems damaged. I know." "Stay with me," Jace said. "You've been asleep a long time, but you're not alone anymore." From the shadows behind them, movement stirred. Black shapes climbed the canyon wall fast. Quiet, deadly dot. 3 black hunters. They were not machines, not men. They were something in between, tall, thin, and built for killing. Their skin was black like coal, and their eyes glowed white. They made no sound as they moved. And they carried strange weapons. Sharp blades that hummed with energy. Jace didn't notice them at first. He was focused on Rhinath, but Ashrok did. The dragon roared from the ridge, sending a shockwave down the canyon. Rocks tumbled. Dust flew. One of the hunters leaped forward, landing near Jace. It raised its blade. Jace turned just in time. Eyes wide with fear, the blade came down but stopped inches away. A metallic claw caught at Rhinath. She had moved, her arm, still weak, had reached out and caught the attacker's weapon. "Threat detected," Rhinath said, her voice sharper now. She threw the hunter back with surprising force. Quace into the rocks. The other 2 moved in quickly. Jace rolled out of the way, grabbing his small blaster, but it was useless against them. Ashrok leaped from above, landing with a ground-shaking thud. Sand and stone exploded into the air. "You will not take him," Ashrok growled. He opened his mouth and released a blast of plasma fire, forcing the black hunters back. Jace ducked behind a boulder. "Rhinath, can you fight?" "Systems at 40%. Flight offline. No weapons. Unstable. We don't need perfect. We need you standing." The dragon pushed herself up slowly, her legs shaking, but she managed to stand. One of her wings dragged across the ground, broken. Her eye glowed brighter. The hunters regrouped. They knew now the dragons were alive and dangerous. They moved together this time, blades ready. Ashrok stepped forward, but Jace shouted, "Wait, let Rhinath try." Ashrok paused. Rhinath looked down at Jace. "I remember. Fighting beside humans. I remember. Freedom." She turned her head to the enemies. "And I remember rage." She charged forward, her tail swept out, knocking one hunter off its feet. She slammed her claw into another, crushing it against the canyon wall. The last one sliced at her neck. Sparks flew, but she didn't stop. She opened her mouth. A beam of unstable green fire blasted out, melting rock and metal. The third hunter tried to dodge, but it was too late. Silence returned. Jace stood slowly, blinking at the smoke and heat. "You did it?" he whispered. Rhinath lowered her head. It felt good. Ashrok stepped forward. She remembers her strength. The fire is returning. But then, a deep sound filled the air. A pulse. Like thunder rolling across the sky. Ashrok turned his head to the heavens. No, high above, a red light appeared in the sky. Not a star, not a ship. A weapon above Karn, Warlord Command, fortress inside the control room, Overseer Goth, stood before a massive screen. The display showed Black Ridge Canyon, 3 heat signatures glowing bright. 2 dragons, 1 human, said a soldier. Goth raised a clawed hand. "Prepare the orbital cannon." A warning tone rang through. The control room, planetary impact confirmed. Fire in 60 seconds. Back in the Kanyonosrok's voice was urgent. "The sky burns. They are firing from orbit." Jace looked up. The red light was getting bigger. "Then we run," he said. "We cannot outrun it," Ashrok replied. "Not in the open." Rhineth's damaged systems buzzed. There is a cave nearby, deep, shielded by old tech. Jace didn't wait. He climbed onto Rhineth's back. Take us there. The dragons moved fast across sand, over rock, between narrow cliffs. Behind them, the sky grew hotter. 10 seconds, Ashrock said. Rhinoth dove into the canyon opening. Ashrock followed, just as the sky lit up white. A beam of red energy blasted down from orbit, striking the exact spot it just left. The ground shook, rocks collapsed, dust and fire filled the air. But the dragons were inside safe, deep in the earth. Inside the cabbage coughed through the smoke. He looked around the dark chamber. It was cold. Ancient glowing symbols marked the walls. Symbols not made by warlords. Old tech. From the First War. Ashrock spoke softly. This is not just a cave. It is a tomb. Rhina's eyes scanned the room. No, it is a map. Jace looked closer. There were marks on the wall. Dragon shapes circled regions of the desert. Are these the locations of the other dragons? Ashrock answered with one word. Yes. Jace stepped back, heart racing. This changes everything. The underground cave was cold and silent, lit only by faint green lights on the walls. Jace stood in front of the ancient map. It was carved into the stone circles, dragon symbols, and strange lines crossing the desert. These were not just marks, they were locations. Hiding spots. Ashrock stood beside him, his red eye glowing faintly. This map was made by the first builders, Ashrock said. They planned to hide us, to keep hope alive. Jace nodded slowly. We can bring them back, one by one. Rhineth, still damaged but standing strong, moved closer. Her green eye scanned the map. The next closest is here, she said, pointing with a claw. Beneath the flame caves, south of the dead ridge. Jace traced the route on his scanner. That's 2 days from here by crawler, maybe less by air. Rhineth turned her head, slightly embarrassed. I still cannot fly. Ashrock stepped forward. I can. I will carry you both. Jace looked up at him. Are you sure? You woke me, human. I will wake the others. Far above, Warlord Fortress Overseer Goth stared at the screen. The orbital strike had hit, but the life signals were still active. They escaped. One officer said, voice shaking, Goths. Voice was cold. Dragons are rising. The people will see. We must act now. He turned to his soldiers. Shut down the cities. Spread fear. Tell them this is the beginning of a second war. Another commander stepped forward, and the rebels' Goth's claws curled. Find them. Kill them. Burn everything if you must. The skies of Karnashrak flew over the burning sands like a shadow of war. His wings stretched wide. The sound of his engines was like thunder. Below him, the desert spread far and wide. Broken canyons, rusted machines, old war ruins. Buried in sand, Rhineth lay across his back, still healing. Jace sat between them, holding a scanner. Suddenly, a voice buzzed in his headset. A human voice. ... To anyone listening. This is New Vale Outpost. We saw you. The dragon. We saw you. Jace froze. A human settlement had seen them. He pressed the mic. This is Jace. You're not alone. We've awakened too. More are coming. The voice on the other side trembled. Is this real? Are the dragons really back? Yes, Jace said. And they're on our side. Flame caves. South Karnashrak landed at the base of a tall red mountain. Smoke poured from cracks in the rocks. Heat rose in waves from the ground. Rhineth jumped down and scanned the area. Jace followed her. Inside the cave, the walls glowed red with lava light. It was like walking into a furnace, and then they saw it. Another dragon, this one, was massive, rusted and blackened from heat. Its head was buried under molten stone. One wing was cracked and burned, but its tail wrapped around a broken reactor core. Jace whispered, "How long has it been down here?" Ashrock stepped forward. "Too long. This is Tharnak, the Fireborn. He was the strongest of us." Jace opened his scanner and started searching for a power line. "I'll need to link into his core, but he's almost melted into the cave wall." "Do what you can," Ashrock said. Suddenly, movement behind them. A group of soldiers, humans wearing stolen warlord armor, weapons raised. Fear in their eyes. "Back away." One shouted, "We saw you flying. We thought you were invaders." Jace raised his hands. "We're not your enemy." They looked at the dragons. Rineth stepped forward. "We fight for your freedom, not your destruction." One soldier, younger than the rest, stepped closer. "I remember these dragons," he said softly, "from old stories. My grandfather said they protected us before the warlords." Jace smiled. "They're back, and we need help to fix this one." The group slowly lowered their weapons. "Then let's bring Tharnak back," the young man said. "Reactivation begins to humans brought old power cells and cables." Jace connected them into Tharnak's exposed ports. Sparks flew. Heat surged through the cave. Suddenly, a pulse. The ground shook. A deep voice echoed from within the molten rock. ... I burn, but I live." Tharnak's eyes, orange and fierce, lit up. Lava cracked around his body. His wing unfolded, breaking through stone. His head lifted slowly, smoke trailing from his mouth. "Who calls me back from the fire?" Jace stepped forward. "A friend." Tharnak stared at him, then at Ashrock and Rineth. You live still." Ashrock nodded. "We rise again, brother." Rineth smiled, "And this time, we win." People began to hope. News of the dragons began to spread. Small human towns and camps whispered of giant machines in the sky, of glowing wings and fire, of rebellion. Some didn't believe it. Others began to hope. In New Vale, people lit signal fires on rooftops, the old rebel sign in Rust Hollow. Workers refused to obey warlord soldiers, shouting, "We are not afraid anymore." In Glass Steppe, old miners uncovered buried weapons from the First War, but the warlords strike back in the northern city of Zarin. Warlords sent tanks to burn houses. Giant machines stomped through the streets. Drones watched from the sky. They made a public broadcast. Overseer, Goth appeared on every screen. "The dragons are enemies of peace. Any human who helps them will be destroyed. You have been warned." But fewer people listened because the sky now carried shadows of wings. The sun rose over Karn, red and sharp like a blade in the sky. Ashrock, Rineth, and Tharnak stood on a high cliff, their giant forms shining in the light. Behind them, a crowd of humans watched in silence, miners, engineers, old warriors, and even children. They had never seen dragons this close, and now they stood beside them. Jace walked forward, a small datapad in hand, showing the map from the ancient cave. 5 more dragons, still asleep, still waiting. He looked up at Ashrock. "We can't wake them alone." Ashrock nodded. "Then we teach the humans." Jace turned to the crowd. "You know how to build. You know how to fix broken machines. You've survived under the warlords for years. But now, we don't survive anymore. Now, we fight." A cheer rose from the people. Elsewhere, deep desert, the warlords were preparing their answer. Inside a dark base buried in red sand, Overseer Goth stood before a row of massive black machines, giant walkers with glowing eyes and sharp limbs. These were Iron Reapers, the warlord's deadliest machines. "Activate them," Goth ordered. Engineers pressed buttons. Lights turned red. The Iron Reapers opened their eyes. Find the dragons. Burn everything. Karn's Forgotten Valley. 2 days later, the resistance gathered near the Shatter Spires. Where the map said another dragon slept, Jace led a team of humans, all trained now in dragon tech. Some carried scanners, others heavy power packs. They worked together, using what they had learned from fixing Tharnok and Rhinoth. Rhinoth stayed back, guarding the edge of the valley. Her systems were stronger now. Her broken wing was half repaired, with scrap metal from old wrecks. Still, she couldn't fly yet. Ashrak circled above, scouting for warlord forces. Tharnok dug through the rock with his claws, shaking the ground. Suddenly metal. A tail. Sharp and long. Jace rushed forward, brushing sand away. We found him. The humans cheered. It was Dravik, the Sand Striker. He was built thinner than the others, faster, sleeker, with drill-like claws. His body was designed for desert, speed and ambush strikes, but his core was cold. Power's dead, one mechanic said. We'll fix that, Jace replied. Within an hour, the team set up cables and began rerouting power. Suddenly, warning signals. Ashrock's voice rang. Out, incoming. Iron Reapers. 3 of them. Rineth moved forward. We stand and fight. The battle begins from the west. The sand exploded. 3 Iron Reapers stomped into the valley. They were tall like buildings, each with 6 legs and glowing red cores. Their heads spun, scanning for targets. The sound of their engines was like thunder. Jay shouted, "Get behind cover. Protect the cables." The Reapers opened fire. Red beams blasted the valley, turning rocks to ash. Rhinoth took the lead. She leaped forward, roaring, and slammed into the first Reaper. Her claws ripped into its chest, but the machine struck back, throwing her across the sand. Ashrock flew in from above and landed on the second Reaper, crushing its legs beneath his weight. Plasma burst from his mouth, melting its armor. Tharnok charged into the third Reaper. His horns glowed orange. Lava energy exploded from his mouth, burning through metal and circuits. Jace stayed low beside Dravok's body. Come on, just a few more seconds. The cables sparked, the ground rumbled. Dr. Eye flickered, then locked open. A blue glow, status, waking, systems, online. He stood up quickly, faster than the others. His body snapped into place like a blade being drawn. Where are the enemies? Jace pointed. There. Dravik launched forward with a speed no one expected. His claws spun like drills. He tore into the wounded Reaper, slicing through its core in seconds. The explosion lit up the sky. The other Reapers paused. One tried to retreat. Too late, Ashrock and Tharnok attacked together, destroying the last Reaper in a wave of fire, and Claws. Silence returned to the valley. Then, cheers. Humans ran from behind cover, shouting with joy. They had seen it with their own eyes. The dragons had won. Again the warlords panicked back at warlord command. Overseer Goth crushed a screen with his claw. 3 dragons, now 4. A soldier spoke nervously. And the humans are helping. Them, whole towns are rising. Goth turned to the dark mirror behind his throne. Then we will bring the final weapon. Prepare Korak. The soldier's face went pale. Korak is not ready. Do it, Goth growled. Resistance expands in the following days. More human settlements joined the rebellion. Old resistance fighters returned from hiding. Engineers built new tools to help wake the next dragons. JACE became a symbol, not a soldier, but a mechanic who woke monsters from the dust. Ashrock stood by him. Dravik began scouting for the next location. Tharnok trained a new human volunteers in heavy weapons, and Rineth finally flew again, her damaged wing held firm with new armor. A symbol of survival. But darkness grows in the last scene of the day. Jace stood on a cliff beside Ashrak. He looked across the desert, now dotted with fires of rebellion. We have 4 dragons, and more coming. Ashrak was silent for a moment. Then he said something that made Jace's heart freeze. I feel something else. Something ancient. It stirs below the Warlord's fortress. Jace turned. What is it? Ashrak's voice was low. A dragon. But not like us. Bigger. Cursed. Twisted by their hands. Jace swallowed hard. Then we'd better wake the rest before they wake him. The desert sky turned black, not from night, but from smoke. Flames burned across the horizon as war spread across. Karn, cities once controlled by the warlords, had fallen into chaos. Towers collapsed, people marched. The symbol of rebellion. A dragon's eye, surrounded by flame, was painted on walls, banners, and rooftops. But hope came with danger, at the edge of the world, deep beneath the obsidian fortress. Something old had awakened, something twisted, something wrong. Inside the warlords, Lair Overseer Goth stood before a tall chamber made of black stone. Inside, giant cables hummed. Red lights pulsed. A massive metal creature lay curled in a pit of fire and chains. Part dragon, part machine. All hatred. Korak, Goth whispered. Rise, my champion. Burn the sky. Crush your kind. The creature opened its eyes. They were not red, not blue, not green. They were white, empty, dead. I serve no master. Korak said, voice shaking the ground. Goth stepped back, afraid. Then destroy everything. Korak broke free from his chains. At the rebel base, Jace stood on a platform made from scavenged ship parts. Around him, humans trained beside dragons. Hundreds now fought for freedom. Rhynath, her wing fully repaired, soared over the base with pride. Tharnok and Dravik trained fire teams in anti-tank combat. Ashrak stood beside Jace. It is time. We feel him, waking Korak. Jace looked at the map. Only 2 dragons remained to be found, but there was no time. Korak was rising too fast. We go now, he said. Ready or not. The final battle begins. The dragons flew over the burning sands. Ashrak led the way, his red wings glowing like fire. Rinoth beside him, fast and fierce. Tharnok and Dravik followed, shaking the earth with every step when they landed. Behind them, thousands of humans marched with weapons, tanks, and scrap-built airships. The rebellion had become an army. In the sky above the warlord fortress, Korak emerged. He was massive, twice the size of any other dragon. His wings were made of black steel. His body dripped molten metal. His voice echoed like death. Brothers. Sister, you should have stayed asleep. Ashrak roared. You are not one of us anymore. I am more, Korak replied. I was reborn, in fire and hate. Without warning, he attacked. His beam of white energy tore through the sky, striking 2 rebel airships and melting them in seconds. Rhynath dove first, firing green plasma. It struck Korak's shoulder, barely a scratch. Dravik followed, spinning claws ripping through. Korak's wing, but he was thrown aside with a single tail swipe. Tharnok charged up. A lava blast and fired into Korak's chest. The explosion lit up the night. Korak roared in pain, then struck back with a sonic wave that shattered rock and glass for miles. Ashrak flew higher. Jace, we can't defeat him alone. We need the last 2. Jace, watching from a command station, responded. I found their location, but they're buried deep. We don't have ours. Ashrak paused. Then I will buy you time. Ashrak's sacrificiac flew higher than ever before, wings blazing with full power. He aimed straight for Korak, who hovered like a storm cloud above the battlefield. "You betrayed us, Korak. You fell into darkness." "No," Korak hissed. "I became the storm." Ashrok fired all his plasma, a final blast, striking Korak in the throat. Smoke exploded from the impact. The two collided midair, claws tearing into each other. Jace screamed into the mic. Ashrok, pull back. But Ashrok didn't answer. He locked onto Korak's core and triggered his self-destruct. The sky went white. A fireball rose like a second sun. After the blast, the battlefield fell silent. Korak fell hard into the desert. One wing gone. Armor melted, but still alive. Barely Jack, with tears in his eyes, ran to the old cave, the last dragon tomb. Inside, his team had powered up both remaining dragons. Their names were Valra and Molnik's twin dragons, one of ice, one of lightning. They rose with fury. They saw the burning sky. They saw Ashrok's remains, and they screamed. The end of Korak stood, broken and furious. "I will not fall." But he had no time. Velra froze his legs in solid ice. Molnik struck with thunder, ripping metal apart. Rhinoth returned, diving into his back with full fire. Dravik drilled through his side. Tharnak released his lava into the wound. Together, 5 dragons. 5. Flames of freedom. Korak fell. And this time, he did not rise again. A new dawn, the warlords were leaderless. Overseer Goth was gone. Crushed under falling stone as his fortress collapsed, cities began to break free. The rebellion swept across the planet, and humans, once afraid, once silent, now walked tall under skies filled with dragons. Epilogue. 1 year Letarge stood at a cliff overlooking a green valley, no longer dry, no longer empty. Dragons flew overhead. Children waved at them from the village below. A statue stood behind Jac. It was made of sand steel. A dragon with wide wings. Ash, Raak.Jac, placed his hand on the metal. "You lit the first fire," he whispered. "We kept it burning." Rhinoth landed beside him. He would be proud. Jace smiled. "So what now?" She tilted her head. "Now we watch the skies, in case more enemies come." Jace nodded. "And this time, they'll find a planet ready to fight back."